A very warm welcome back to beautiful Sri Lanka. Guys, today I'm going to be flying with SriLankan Airlines in their long-haul business class product aboard their A330 from their home here in Colombo through to Dubai. Come along, it's going to be an interesting one. My day started with a morning transit in from Bangkok. From there, it was a short transfer through to SriLankan Airlines flagship Serendib Lounge. The lounge itself has everything that you will need, so let's get into it and have a look around. Despite being fairly small, the overall offerings from the lounge were pretty decent. Featured some nice views out over the concourse. They were certainly busy building some new terminal space just there. In terms of seating, that was fairly basic. They had a general area of the lounge, which you can see just now, and also a quieter, more comfortable area as well. The food and beverage selection was for sure the standout feature of the lounge. It featured a full service bar and also buffet containing a range of different hot and cold options. I would say if you're not a fan of spicy food, there won't be too much for you just here in the way of hot options, but that is of course a big feature of Sri Lankan cooking, and everything certainly did taste pretty good. Those of you who have tuned into my content before will know that I am a fan of airport lounge showers. This one featured a couple of options, and it was great to freshen up as ever before my onward flight to Dubai. So the sun's just setting here, it's time to head to the gate. The flight's a little bit more delayed than I was expecting, so really looking forward to getting on board, checking out this product and heading back to Dubai. See you on board. Colombo Airport is fairly compact, so it was a short walk from there to the boarding gate. Fairly shortly after our aircraft arrived, it was to be a newer Airbus A330 with a nice surprise in store. So settled on board, some really good news this evening. It's been a surprise upgrade to their far newer business class product. On the outbound, this was their much older product. That's what I was expecting this evening. And not only is it a brand new product, but I've retained the window seat, so all good on that front. Like many modern business class products, the seats were laid out in a 1-to-1 configuration. I was very fortunate to retain the window seat, and these would certainly be my pick of seats available. For couples, there are 2 inward seats, but to be honest, given the distance that they sit apart from each other, I do wonder whether couples would be best just sat across the aisle from each other. So champagne has been served shortly after boarding. It seems like the good times are back in business class. As one famous aviation YouTuber would say, cheers, here's to a great flight.
Now that I'm looking back, I can see all the signs I tried to fill in the cracks that were spreading in my mind, but I was all out of hope. Lost in an endless space, the emptiness had unfolded, just like a void. You broke the code now.
Colombo International Airport is quickly becoming a favourite of mine to depart out of. This beautiful light show that you get departing out with the twinkling lights really was beautiful back over the bay. A big shout out to anyone who can name the famous cricketer in the safety video also. In terms of our routing for tonight, that was going to be northwest back over India, over towards Dubai and the Persian Gulf. Let's take a minute to check out this excellent new seat that they have on board. Seat featured plenty of storage and charging options. There was lots of configurability to get nice and comfortable in the seat as well. In addition to that, the seat also featured one of my favourite features, allowing you to drop the armrest even during meal service, so you can still move freely in and out of the seat. Perhaps the best part of this seat's design was the table. Often I find with business class seats, the table can be a real faff to get out of position. This one stood out really nicely and provided a really firm dining or work surface. Folding back away after meal service was just as easy, although this is a really minor thing. It's the little things that sometimes make the biggest difference. As for the entertainment on board, headphones were provided. The orientation and general positioning of the screen was also really good. The overall look and feel of it was a little bit dated, but being the kid that I am, I did rather love their user interface. Many would look at that though and say that it perhaps was a bit dated in 2022. The overall selection, however, as soon as you navigated past the bouncing boxes, was really good across the board. Amenity kits were brought round shortly after takeoff. They also featured on my outbound flight on this particular leg. This was a really nice touch given how relatively short this journey was. Further amenities were then also available in the bathrooms as well. The crew certainly made the trip feel really special. The purser spent a lot of time just coming around the cabin, checking in with passengers and making sure that they were enjoying the experience. I haven't really seen this on previous airlines extensively, so that was really nice. As for the food, this was also a real highlight of being on board. Sri Lankans are very passionate about their cooking. As ever, the menu featured an extensive tea selection, and then dinner was very much the focus on from there. Before dinner was served, another round of drinks was brought around alongside some cashew nuts. It wasn't long though before the food arrived. I had the chicken biryani on board. It wasn't one of the menu options, but everyone up front seemed to want chicken, so they were able to accommodate that with a couple of different options. By the time I departed Colombo, it was getting late, so it was nice to bed down and try the bed on board for a couple of hours before arriving. I woke up next to a new bottle of water and a fast-track immigration pass. The staff very kindly laid those out whilst I was asleep, and as the bright lights of Dubai came back into view, it was time to take the easterly, more desert-bound approach back into the city. Arriving back after a long trip is always nice. We were also able to make up some time lost from the late departure out of Colombo as well. It had been 4 segments in total with SriLankan Airlines over the course of this trip, so next up, let's cover off my overall thoughts on the airline itself. So that's me back to base here in Dubai. Time to wrap up on what was a very interesting experience with SriLankan Airlines. Overall, a real positive. Certainly a great deal more comfortable of a cabin than one really needs for a flight of that duration. It was great also to get that upgrade unexpectedly to the much newer business class product that they'd usually use on much longer routes, the likes of their non-stop operation to Melbourne featured that seat, so it was great to experience it on such a short hop back to Dubai. In terms of SriLankan Airlines as a whole, there's pros and cons of flying with them. They're for sure not a tier 1 operator. The likes of Cathay Pacific, Qatar Airways are for sure in a slightly different bracket within the One World Alliance. That said, for the price that they charge, I think they do offer excellent value for money. In terms of some of the downsides, one of them for sure was the age of the fleet that they operate. That did sadly reflect in the number of hard products on board and did leave some of their interiors over the course of my trip looking a little bit shabby. In addition to that as well, a much more short-term issue, but there are a range of geopolitical situations unraveling in Sri Lanka at the moment, which no doubt are also impacting the airline. So if you are looking to book with SriLankan Airlines, do double check the situation in Sri Lanka first, particularly if you're looking like me to do a stop off on the way through as well. In terms of the positives, the biggest asset for sure for me is their crew. They did such a good job of welcoming everyone on board, and it was really nice to see that throughout the flight that I took. Being Sri Lanka, an honourable mention of course goes to the food. That was really super on board as well. As a slight point aside, SriLankan Airlines, as mentioned, are a member of the One World Alliance. With that being said, because they do stop on the way to Asia through Colombo, when you are flying with them from the likes of Dubai or Europe through to perhaps Far Eastern Asian regions, the best bit of flying with them is the fact that it stops in Colombo. So what that means often is double the tier status earnings. So do check out my previous video. I'm going to pop a link in the description below so you can check that one out just to see how you can really maximize your earning, albeit for a price that's typically much lower than some of the tier 1 operators within the group as well. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, as ever, drop it a like. I've got lots more upcoming on the channel from the likes of British Airways, Royal Jordanian, Kuwait Airlines, First Class, just to name but a few. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you in the next one.